Salute to Shakyamuni Buddha, homage to Manjushri, wisdom, homage to root masters, the profound Dharma, rare in ages, see here, understand Tathagata's meaning, to liberate all sentient beings, give rise to the supreme bodhicitta. Now let us study together the guidance on the preliminary practices of the Great Perfection Longchen Nyingtik. These Longchen Nyingtik Great Perfection inner and outer preliminary practices is based on the oral transmission of Venerable Jigme Gyaltsen Nyugu. Therefore, in fact, it can be said that Patrul Rinpoche, having relied on Venerable Jigme Gyaltsen Nyugu, received these teachings 25 times over many years, and finally recorded all of the Master's pith instructions with great care and attention, leaving them for us, the future generations. The content within is extremely rich, abundant, and possesses and is imbued with the extraordinary and rare blessing of the lineage, which is highly revered and cherished. The entire treatise is divided into two aspects. First, we consider the method of listening to the Dharma, and then we focus on the Dharma itself that is being taught and explained. First, let us discuss the way to listen to the Dharma from two aspects: motivation and conduct. First, regarding motivation, the motivation of vast aspiration, bodhicitta, and the motivation of vast skillful means of secret mantra. The former is the motivation of the exoteric tradition, that is the Mahayana motivation, while the latter is the motivation of the esoteric tradition, to motivate by seeing the mind as pure. Therefore, here, all those individuals who sincerely listen to the Dharma teachings should, first and foremost, take the time to thoroughly comprehend and truly understand that this Dharma is not something that just anyone can truly hear. Why do we say this? Because in today's society, most people, in fact, do not listen to the Dharma. Even if, in rare cases, someone listens to the Buddha's teachings, their motivation isn't necessarily to benefit countless sentient beings. Even less likely is it that they listen with the correct view of visualizing everything as pure. So, this preliminary practice is on the surface to be the very foundation of all Dharma, serving as a preliminary preparatory practice, but in reality the requirements for those who listen to it should be quite high. It's like taking a college entrance exam in the secular world. Without a certain level of ability, you can't even enter the examination room because the content being tested is of a relatively high standard. In the same way, those who listen to the Dharma should first carefully examine themselves, because some people sometimes listen to the Dharma simply out of curiosity. Perhaps some do it for wealth, indeed, in this life, or to cure illnesses, gain some fame, or have a smooth career. These particular goals are not specifically addressed here. So when first studying this treatise, it is a very advanced and highly regarded Mahayana teaching, and also a truly profound pith instruction. Therefore, at the very beginning of listening to it, those very few people who seek the 8 worldly concerns, who desire fame and material gain, such people may not necessarily find it suitable for their intentions. So from the perspective of motivation, we can also see the remarkable excellence and profound depth of this treatise, which stands out for its insightful analysis and thoughtful exploration of its subject matter. Next is the vast motivation, because this is something ordinary people cannot generate. The motivation of ordinary people is very small and narrow. It is merely a self-serving mind, or a mind focused on this life. Apart from this, in order to benefit countless, boundless, and innumerable sentient beings, all the way until attaining Buddhahood, or even until the end of space, for such an immeasurably long period of time, and also wishing that these sentient beings attain the indescribable, unsurpassed happiness of Buddhahood. Such a motivation is something ordinary people cannot generate. They cannot even imagine it. Just as Bodhisattva Shantideva said, be it Brahma or Indra, or even parents in the world who are considered to be especially compassionate, Not to mention that even during the day, at any time, they have never even considered this, not even in their dreams. Therefore, everyone should recognize the truly extraordinary nature of such a motivation. If in this very lifetime one can truly give rise to such bodhicitta, it is without a doubt indeed extremely rare and truly precious. We should think in this way. Actually, all sentient beings within samsara since beginningless time have been my parents. When they were my parents, they cared for me in every possible way and showered me with affection. They gave me the very best food to eat first and the very best clothes to wear first. They lovingly and patiently nurtured me as I grew up, always supporting me. For us human beings, this is how sentient beings should be regarded. In fact, it is important to note that among all sentient beings that exist within the 6 realms of samsara, since beginningless time, every single one has definitely been our father or mother. There is such a story in the sutra on the heavy kindness of parents that is difficult to repay. Once, when the Buddha and Ananda were traveling to the south, as he walked along, the Buddha saw right in front of him a pile of bones. At that moment, the Buddha, with utmost respect, prostrated himself before the ancient pile of bones, bowing in deep reverence. Ananda could not fully understand the meaning behind his actions, and feeling puzzled, he paused for a moment and then asked, "You are the teacher of the 3 realms, the world-honored one, of all virtues. Why are you bowing in such deep reverence to this old, crumbling pile of ancient bones?" The Buddha replied, "Long ago, in the distant past, these sentient beings have all been my parents or ancestors over the course of countless generations. Therefore, today we should pay homage to them." And he also explained further in detail, when being a parent, how to be kind and caring to your children, etc. He explained many principles related to this. Therefore, for those who wholeheartedly believe in the Buddha's teachings, it should be very clear from these scriptural and logical proofs that all sentient beings have been our parents in one lifetime or another. The Brahmajala Sutra also says, "All men are indeed truly my fathers, and all women are my mothers." Thus, all beings in the 6 realms are our fathers and mothers. There is such scriptural evidence. Therefore, as we have wandered in samsara from beginningless time, there is no doubt at all that all sentient beings have indeed definitely been our parents. It's a long time span, and sentient beings have many deluded causes and conditions. Therefore, we are currently unable to immediately recognize our parents from previous lives. If one is a true practitioner of bodhicitta, genuinely a realized being, or a truly dedicated practitioner in the truest sense, they can deeply believe that all sentient beings are indeed their parents. Once, when Venerable Atisha was in Nyetang, he saw a horse with its neck caught in a tree, struggling to break free. He said to others, "My old mother is suffering. Please, I beg you, save her." So, for those who truly cultivate bodhicitta, whenever they see any sentient being, from the highest, like Brahma and Indra, to the smallest, like ants and tiny insects, whenever they see them, not to mention the thought of harming them, such a thought could never arise, they will definitely give rise to a feeling no different from what they feel toward their parents in this life. His Holiness also said in seasonal advice for pacifying activities, all sentient beings in the 3 realms are our parents. We should protect them all equally with great loving kindness and compassion. All sentient beings in the 3 realms have at some point been our loving parents. We should care for them all equally with a heart of great loving kindness and compassion. We should not only be truly filial, sincerely respectful, and wholeheartedly devoted to our parents in this life, spending all of their hard-earned money on their parents in various ways. Of course, some devoted children do make offerings to them, while neglecting all other sentient beings. Toward those, we have poor relationships or even enemies, all, as some religions advocate nowadays, completely abandoning animals and other beings than humans. This is a shame for our human race and also a shame for Mahayana Buddhism, a sign of not understanding or practicing bodhicitta in Mahayana. So what is most precious about us, in fact, lies right here. Many people may say, on the surface, I simply want to give rise to bodhicitta. Talking about generating bodhicitta sounds very simple. Many people in Tibet say this as well in conversation. And many people in Han regions also say they want to generate bodhicitta. Masters, teachers say this. Many people below, studying Dharma, reciting scriptures or chanting the Buddha's name, they often say to generate bodhicitta. But when you truly look within, have you actually generated it yourself? If you truly want to generate bodhicitta, you must take all sentient beings as your focus. You must treat your parents in this life and all mother sentient beings with equal regard. Have we ever truly given rise to such a mind? That is why Dharma practice is absolutely and extremely important now. Why do I say this? Because theoretical teachings and actual practice, these two, in order to truly be effective, must ultimately be combined. If not combined, many who listen to or teach the Dharma are repeating predecessors, theorists or wise men, just repeat the words. Other than that, it doesn't have much significance. If I talk a lot daily, but in my own heart, I have never actually visualized, nor have I ever given rise to even a single moment of bodhicitta, then I am simply merely repeating the words of those who came before me. Other than that, it brings no real benefit to my own mind stream either. As for others, what I teach to them is even less meaningful. So during the process of learning, everyone must keep in mind, because it is time to be a parent. They cared for us with care. As Khenpo Achung said before, even if some parents lack financial means and have to beg for a living, if they somehow manage to find even just a little bit of food while begging, and there is fat or a piece of meat in the food, at that moment they would, instead of eating it, they give it to their child first. Even if they find it in a trash can or somewhere, if they find some tattered clothes, they will pick out a piece that is relatively clean or in better condition and use that to carefully dress their child with care and attention. So whether someone is simply wealthy or poor, when someone becomes parent, except for a few cases mentioned earlier, where special karmic circumstances from past lives lead to rare exceptions. Generally speaking, the so-called motherly love the care parents have for their children is beyond what words can describe. Each of us has been a child before, at some point in our lives. So think about in your own life how much your parents have given to you in your life and how much you have given to your parents. You put this way, there was once a renowned and highly respected professor who, during her engaging lecture, thoughtfully remarked, she meant the issue of filial piety in ancient times. But we should consider this. When a son or daughter grows up, when he grew up, he really cared a lot about his parents. They might not even spend half an hour talking to them in an entire month. They don't give their parents the opportunity. Parents are pitiful. But parents really want to have long-term communication with their children over time. So a lot of truly motherly love and care is described very clearly in Buddhist scriptures and commentaries. To repay our parents' kindness in this life, we should let our parents learn the Dharma and repay their kindness. But now, since we have already generated the Mahayana bodhicitta, it's not just like the ancient Confucian ideas where being filial is enough. Washing your parents' feet, for example, I see a lot of filial piety education and related teachings nowadays. Repay kindness, wash parents' feet. But I don't think this is very important. It's fine if their feet are a bit dirty or clean. But the most crucial thing is to cleanse your parents' hearts. Parents hold greed, anger, ignorance from beginningless time. In this brief and fleeting lifetime, they truly have no opportunity to cleanse these by their own power. Therefore, if we use wisdom and compassion to help wash away the defilements in their hearts, is true repayment of their kindness. This means our parents. When it comes to all sentient beings, beings who have been our parents from beginningless time, to fully and sincerely repay their kindness, both in this lifetime and beyond, we must attain Buddhahood as the ultimate expression of gratitude. Beings of mountain kindness, although they long for happiness, do not know to practice the causes of happiness, the 10 virtuous actions. Although they do not wish to suffer, they do not know to abandon the causes of suffering, the 10 non-virtuous actions. What they wish for and what they actually do are at odds, and they blindly stray onto the wrong path. It's just like a blind person left behind in the wilderness. These conscious and sentient beings are truly quite unfortunate and pitiable. All of these beings, when they were my parents, cared for and protected me in this way with great compassion and kindness. Their kindness is mountain deep and sea wide. For these motherly sentient beings, even though throughout their countless lifetimes they have wished for happiness, in this world, whatever the sentient being, as long as it has life, it will desperately long to attain happiness of both body and mind. But these beings, not meeting Mahayana Dharma or teachers, are therefore in most cases extremely, completely and utterly ignorant and unaware. They have absolutely no idea whatsoever about practicing the root of all happiness, the 10 virtuous actions. The 10 virtuous actions that will be discussed below are things they would never know about because they are quite simply ignorant in many cases. They just do not know. Foolish people, though they seek happiness, destroy their own happiness as if eradicating an enemy. Bodhisattva Shantideva also said this. These foolish people, although they sincerely seek happiness, do not really know how to truly seek lasting peace and genuine joy. They destroy their own happiness completely, just as if it were their enemy. Some people, simply wanting to get rich, resort to stealing. Some people want to live long, so they kill other sentient beings to supplement their bodies and so on. Many of their actions are often completely contrary to their goals. All kinds of ignorant behaviors are manifested in people's bodies and minds in both subtle and obvious ways. As a result, they can never attain any happiness at all. Although these sentient beings never wish to experience any suffering, they have absolutely no idea that they must completely abandon the root of all suffering, the 10 unwholesome actions. Sentient beings wish to eliminate suffering, yet they act in ways that create the causes of suffering instead. Even though these beings very much want to eradicate all the suffering within their own mental continuum, but precisely because of their ignorance and extreme foolishness, they are completely unable to eliminate the causes of all their suffering. Cause suffering, they sometimes kill for the sake of happiness. They even gamble for the sake of happiness and so on, all in pursuit of happiness. Looking at the world today, it's truly pitiful society, and people can be very pitiable at times, especially in this modern era. As science becomes more and more advanced, people have more and more ways to commit negative actions. Although ways to do good exist, but the ignorance and foolishness within their own minds is extremely severe. The guidance of spiritual teachers is exceedingly rare and scarce. So for many beings, their future is confused, bleak, dark, and truly frightening. As a result, these beings are unable to obtain any real benefit. It is like a blind person who has completely lost both eyes and therefore cannot see at all, wandering in the vast, endless, boundless wilderness. He has no sense of direction at all and has truly entered a path of confusion. It is extremely painful and pitiable. Like people today, although they possess wisdom regarding worldly matters, this kind of wisdom is merely a means for creating karma. When discerning what to adopt or abandon, good deeds bring good results and evil deeds bring bad consequences. Such reasoning is completely incomprehensible to them. Therefore, sometimes human intelligence and development are actually a clear and important indication that regression is occurring rather than progress. This ought to be said from the perspective of all sentient beings in order to fully convey the intended message. Two bodhicitta conditions. One is to direct one's attention towards all sentient beings throughout the world and give rise to compassion for them. All sentient beings in the world are, of course, truly pitiable. And we are not just talking about humans, but also the countless beings in the hell, hungry ghost, and animal realms. When will they be able to understand the law of cause and effect to make the right choices? It is truly, absolutely frightening, truly terrifying. Sometimes we ourselves should also reflect on this. Will I fall into the 3 lower realms? If I do fall into the 3 lower realms, then the opportunity for liberation is, as one might say, extremely rare, virtually non-existent. So now that we have obtained this human body, just as many great and kind teachers have said in the past, we must seize this opportunity. Otherwise, committing negative karma can happen in just a single thought, just one fleeting moment, a brief, momentary evil intention. When nausea comes, as the ancients said, an evil mind is a heart beneath the character for inferior. With such a dangerous and misguided mindset, one can potentially commit truly enormous sins. You will be filled with endless regret. Therefore, now that we have this human body in our possession, we should steer ourselves in the right direction. At the same time, we should feel compassion for those pitiful sentient beings who are lost and confused. This is the great compassion that arises for all sentient beings. Next, let us contemplate further. Now, as I listen to and practice the profound and supreme Dharma, I help all sentient beings who were my parents in past lives, those tormented in the 6 realms, to be free from pain and habitual tendencies caused by their own karma and attain the all-knowing Buddhahood. This section is about truly aspiring to the wisdom and deep understanding of the Buddha. Earlier, we reflected on how all sentient beings are suffering greatly. When we think of this, we really want to help them. If we want to help them, there is no other way. On our own, we are powerless. Now, we have the opportunity to encounter Mahayana spiritual teachers and the Mahayana Dharma, and our own mental continuum is also suitable to be a vessel for the Dharma. When auspicious conditions arise, I must listen to and receive the Mahayana Dharma that can sever the very root of cyclic existence. Moreover, this Dharma should not merely remain in our minds at the level of hearing. I must continuously and earnestly contemplate or practice it. The purpose of this is not, personally speaking, for my own happiness, nor is it for my own personal momentary fame or anything like that, even for a brief recognition. It is not like that. It is for the sake of all mother sentient beings who have been my parents in the past, who are now still wandering in the 6 realms of cyclic existence, enduring the countless and boundless sufferings unique to each of the 6 realms. Because sentient beings have different karmas, the sufferings they experience are also vastly different. Therefore, sometimes when we are in a quiet place or when we are meditating deeply, we should reflect in our hearts that currently innumerable sentient beings have not attained liberation and are constantly bound by karma and afflictions. This suffering is beyond words. As practitioners who have sincerely generated the great Mahayana bodhicitta with deep aspiration and commitment, we must aspire to liberate them. If we want to free them, only way is for us to study and listen to the Dharma. When our own mind stream is freed from the web of afflictions at that time, we ourselves can attain Buddhahood, and it will also be possible to liberate these sentient beings. The reason I listen to the Dharma is to free these sentient beings. With the sincere motivation to benefit others, I earnestly seek unsurpassed enlightenment. Just as Maitreya Bodhisattva taught, generating bodhicitta has 2 conditions. One is to benefit all pitiful sentient beings and to ensure that these sentient beings ultimately attain the state of perfect enlightenment. This is what is called generating bodhicitta. It is important that such motivation, which should inspire and guide us, remains present and active at every moment, ensuring we are always supported by it. In fact, this method of practice has been taught to everyone in the preliminary practices as pith instructions. Therefore, in Tibetan Buddhism, it truly is indeed regarded as the most profound and inspirational guiding light. It can be said that this pith instruction text is an extremely rare Dharma teaching. This time, we are also not rushing through it. each day we will cover as much as we possibly can. During the process of listening and receiving these teachings, everyone must consistently and thoroughly integrate the content into their own minds and fully understand it. You must recall these Vajra speech of Patrul Rinpoche and compare them with your own ordinary mind. Just like a beautiful woman looking into a mirror. When she looks in the mirror, she examines herself over and over again, checking for any blemishes or imperfections. We should treat these teachings as a mirror, repeatedly examining ourselves. After that, we will realize that in the past, during our journey learning Buddhism, or even before we started, negative karma we created is unimaginable. After studying Dharma, many people may have only developed a superficial form of practice, whether it's listening to the teachings, practicing, or doing many other things. I'm afraid it can't even be considered Mahayana Buddhism at all. Not to mention Mahayana, it doesn't even touch the edges of Hinayana Buddhism. If that's the case, then no matter how highly or deeply you promote Buddhism in words, in reality you are, in fact, quite far removed from the true and genuine Dharma. In the past, after we gave some teachings in our sessions, some people after listening said, in the past I truly didn't understand Buddhism, but now I do understand a bit. But if you really integrate the content of the preliminary practices with your own mind stream, I'm afraid that, unfortunately, it's still not enough. You must continue to consistently reflect further. The more you think about it, the harder it becomes. Talking about it, bodhicitta seems easy for everyone. Before we listen to the teachings, we generate bodhicitta. Before we give teachings, we generate bodhicitta. Anyone can repeat. I've been saying it for more than 20 years. And I say it every time I give a teaching. But sometimes, when I truly compare it with the mind of an ordinary person, I feel deeply ashamed, even though I've said it so many times verbally. But in reality, when I examine my intentions and thoughts, doing this for beings, am I truly doing everything for sentient beings right now? I often find that I'm not doing it for myself or for sentient beings. It's just like I have to finish this task every day, no matter what. I'm often in this neutral, indifferent state. This is also quite frightening.
Every day, I just think, anyway, I can't miss this class. Whenever I arrive, I find myself in a dazed and muddled state, as if my mind is foggy and it's hard to focus on what's happening around me. It's to help all sentient beings in reality. If at that moment the genuine thought for all beings has not arisen, unreasonable. So whenever anyone hears about generating bodhicitta for the benefit of all sentient beings, especially your own mind can truly transform. If you are able to make that important shift, then in that very instant, you have already successfully gathered all of the merit you were meant to receive. This is extremely crucial. This point is related to your usual personal practice. If you have, at any point, never truly established a meaningful connection between it and your own personal mind training, then no matter how many years you really listen, you probably still won't develop or give rise to this intention or resolve. When doing virtuous actions, for example, reciting daily or doing your daily practice, have you ever thought about doing it for the sake of all beings at them? So, to put the most crucial issue in simple terms, if I may say, no matter what virtuous deed you do, the first thing you should think is, I am doing this for the sake of all sentient beings. This is absolutely and extremely important. This kind of aspiration, whether in the process of listening to the Dharma or practicing the Dharma, it is always very important, truly. If you practice in this way, whether you are on your own or with others, personally receiving teachings from any teacher or listening to CDs, MP3s, MP4s, and so on, using any of the modern ways to receive teachings, at that time, you should first give rise to this kind of bodhicitta motivation. Or when we are practicing the Dharma, the scope of Dharma practice is quite broad. In a broad sense, any act of performing virtuous deeds is considered Dharma practice. For example, whether it is releasing animals, reciting mantras, engaging in various forms of charity work, such as community service or volunteering for Buddhist-related activities and events. Are these considered Dharma practice? They should be. Why is that? Because practice means habituation, and here in this context, Dharma refers to virtuous actions. Habituating virtue, allowing virtuous deeds to fill one's own mind stream. So in this sense, broadly speaking, all acts of charity can simply be called Dharma practice. No matter when, at any time, we must consistently and always strive to carefully cultivate and nurture such an intention. In the past, the great and venerable Jigme Lingpa also said that so-called bodhicitta is a mind without selfishness or self-interest. Just like a person who is feeling extremely hungry and is desperately seeking food to satisfy their hunger, or like a person who is very thirsty and is actively searching for water to quench their thirst, the mind that seeks Buddhahood thus is called bodhicitta. The meaning of bodhicitta should be understood like this, in simple terms. I seek Buddhahood for all sentient beings. Such an intense, heartfelt longing arising within the heart is called bodhicitta. Therefore, at all times, it is crucial to give rise to such a strong aspiration. Regardless of whether the virtue we cultivate is indeed great or small, if embraced skillfully, it is called the supreme motivation of preparatory practices. If the virtue is not destroyed by other conditions, it is supreme conduct of non-referentiality. For the virtue to continually increase, so at the end we carefully seal it with heartfelt and sincere dedication. This is called the supreme dedication at the conclusion. Here, the three supremes have already been explained. The three supremes have also been introduced many times before in the past. No matter whether the virtue you practice is great or small, some may be great, it appears so. People might say, look at the virtue this person earned. For example, someone might release several thousand yaks at once, or build a multi-story lecture hall, a Buddha hall, and so on, which seem very significant. Or some people might do something small, even if it's just reciting a single Avalokiteshvara mantra or chanting Amitabha's name once. On the surface, this appears especially insignificant. No matter whether you are accumulating great virtue or small virtue, at the very beginning, as mentioned earlier, you should embrace it with supreme bodhicitta. This is called having the supreme motivation at the outset. When you initially begin your journey, any virtuous action must, without exception, have this. Therefore, in Tibetan Buddhism, whether praying or doing good deeds, one simply begins by reciting the refuge and bodhicitta verses. In the middle, this virtuous action should not be harmed by adverse conditions. If someone has realizations and abides in Dzogchen, Mahamudra, or Madhyamaka, or prajna and emptiness, this is the supreme practitioner's way of sustaining the main practice without reference. If you truly do not have such ability, during the process of performing virtuous deeds, you should stay focused and attentive. Do not be distracted or look around aimlessly. Always carry out your virtuous actions with concentration. On the surface, it may seem that this person does not value or focus on the virtuous deed, but it should not be like this. This is what is meant by sustaining the main practice without reference. The meaning of right practice without attachment is to start and finish well with any practice. From beginning to end, always remain very focused. When we attend class, some Dharma friends listen with great concentration and focus during the lesson. Some people tend to pay just a little bit of attention at the very start of something, but gradually lose focus as the class goes on. This kind of behavior or conduct is not in any way referred to as sustaining the main practice without reference. Sustaining the main practice without reference means being very attentive. Finally, as your virtuous roots begin to truly flourish and grow stronger, you should carefully seal them with a meaningful dedication verse at the end. To seal it is like depositing money in the bank. Once it's deposited, it's secured. Its interest continues to steadily increase, growing more and more over time. But if the money isn't actually deposited at any time, for any reason, even just a delay, it could be stolen by someone else or squandered by yourself, and so on. Such things can happen. If you have truly deposited it, then not only will it not be depleted meanwhile, but its merit will grow and flourish. That's why many people place great importance on the dedication verse. In Tibet, seasoned practitioners, for example, when they are meditating or doing good deeds, if something suddenly comes up before they can dedicate the merit, they will say, wait a moment, let me finish dedicating the merit, then I'll talk to you. Hold on, let me just dedicate this first, then I'll come out. Many people say this. So at the end of doing good deeds, if there's no time to recite a long aspiration prayer, just as we mentioned before, Manjushri's wisdom, Samanta Bhadras conduct, I now dedicate all my roots of virtue, always learning from them in every way, using such verses to encompass the dedication. In this way, the roots of virtue will be completely and perfectly preserved all the way to the attainment of Buddhahood. We have been continuously explaining these three excellences here. Don't see this as a passing enthusiasm for a day or two. It should be a practice that you never forget for as long as you live. Personally, the teachings and the preliminary practices of Dzogchen aren't just for a day or two, nor like reading a newspaper where you read it today and immediately toss it aside, wondering if there's something new tomorrow. Positive and negative. Think, I understand it, that's enough, and just throw it away, but it shouldn't be like that. Many seasoned practitioners in Tibetan Buddhism treat it like a wish-fulfilling jewel for their spiritual practice. In the past, because the conditions in Tibet often weren't very good, if someone had a copy of the preliminary practices of Dzogchen written well, it's said that some practitioners would offer a whole yak just to obtain it. There was such a saying, at that particular time, a single yak, generally speaking, as a rule, in most cases, for an average family, would be about a third of their entire property. So many people place significant importance on it. But nowadays, it seems that books are much more plentiful. So now, carrying Dharma texts with you all the time is optional. You can take them with you or not. If you have this kind of attitude, it will be somewhat difficult for the blessings within the text to truly merge with your mind. This time when we discuss it, we might cover things more broadly. These lecture notes keep you in your body every day. Some difficulties. But I hope verses of Bodhisattva's Way of Life, Great Perfection Practices and Vajra Words, Patrul Rinpoche, these books should always be carried with you at all times and regarded as your trusted and cherished spiritual friends. Because having a spiritual friend with you every day might actually be somewhat difficult. And if your teacher were with you constantly, you might start to feel annoyed. At a certain point, you might not really want your teacher around anymore. But this Dharma is a teacher without anger or resentment. You can open it and consult some of my own afflictions and sufferings, which I have personally experienced and endured in my own life. Whenever, at any time, you open the special book, it can immediately grant you relief and calm your mind. So in our daily lives, we should treat it as an extremely precious book. Listening to the Dharma is no exception. At the very beginning, the proper way of listening should be given top priority. As we can see, especially the motivation, which in fact plays an even more leading role. We just talked about this as well. The three supreme methods must never be neglected. You absolutely must observe them. Every virtuous action we perform, no matter how small or significant, must always be fully embraced and supported by these three supreme methods. This requirement is absolutely indispensable and cannot be set aside. Therefore, by making a dedicated effort to regularly practice these three supreme methods in your daily life, you can gradually enhance your understanding and appreciation of their value. Is truly essential for cultivating any Dharma practice in daily life. Listening to the Dharma is no exception. At the very beginning, the proper way of listening should be given top priority, especially the motivation, which plays an even more leading role. Next, when it comes to listening to the Dharma, the method of listening to the Dharma that was mentioned earlier is, as we discussed, just as important and significant. If you don't understand how to listen to Dharma, then simply listening may not actually really bring any merit. The Buddhist scriptures say that if how you listen to the Dharma is not in accordance with the teachings, then it's also fine not to listen. There are such statements. If, while listening to the Dharma, you happen to develop anger or attachment, then you should stop listening immediately. You can get up and leave right away. That's permissible. Some lay practitioners left during a Dharma talk. I wondered in that moment whether she was feeling attachment or perhaps anger. Maybe she was new and didn't really understand. Perhaps that's the case. The way you listen to the Dharma is very important. It is the root of all merit. This is true during the process of listening to the Dharma. Although there are many different requirements to consider, the most important one is truly your own motivation. As it is stated in the Treasury of Merit by the Venerable Jigme Lingpa, it is only the difference in intention, good or bad, that matters, not the apparent size of the good or bad deed. All virtuous roots depend solely on whether your mind is truly virtuous or unwholesome. The magnitude of merit essentially corresponds closely to the difference in your intention. Whether the merit of your virtuous actions is great or small depends on your motivation. If you are motivated by bodhicitta or renunciation, then if on the surface your virtuous deed appears insignificant, in reality its merit is extremely great. It does not depend on outward appearance or size of the act. For example, some people tend to spend a lot of money on various things in their daily lives, building a 13-story Dharma or Buddha hall, doing such grand projects. On the surface, it seems like the merit is extremely great. People might think how wonderful it would be to have such good fortune, but if their mind is filled with competitiveness or a desire to show off to others, and they often mix in a considerable amount of various afflictions, troubles, and difficulties while performing this virtuous act, then the merit is not great because it's not supported by the right motivation. If you don't do this and instead truly seems a small thing, but if it is supported by bodhicitta, then its merit is boundless and immeasurable. Like poor woman offering a lamp in Sutra of Wise and Foolish. This poor woman got a little oil with difficulty, after effort, and finally, with the profound motivation of bodhicitta in her heart, she gently and respectfully offered the lamp. Even the noble Shravakas could not extinguish its flame. So we usually, in general, just a little bit of money and perhaps even just a little bit of opportunity, a small chance for real growth and lasting success. We should use it, supporting it with, for example, some people have very heavy karmic obstacles and do not have the opportunity or the chance to listen to all of the various Dharma teachings that are available. They only have the opportunity to attend just one single class. In that specific case, if they begin with bodhicitta, listen attentively throughout, and finally dedicate the merit with the powerful Vajra words of the noble ones, or perhaps you don't have the means to make long-term offerings or give regularly, but occasionally you get an opportunity and have a little bit of money. You use that money to buy a packet of milk powder. In your heart, you think, for this milk powder, I generate bodhicitta, and for the sake of all sentient beings attaining unsurpassed Buddhahood, I offer it to the Sangha. Offering to the Sangha, the practice of non-referential generosity is simple. At that time, everything's done in a very short period. Then you dedicate it with intention, with a heartfelt aspiration, making a dedication of merit for the benefit of all beings. This matter now has a beginning and an end. You have already completed this virtuous deed completely. On your path to enlightenment, it holds a very important place. That's why in our daily lives, sometimes the virtuous roots we cultivate aren't immediately apparent. Others may perform very great virtuous acts, but whether their minds are truly pure or not, if the mind is not pure, then even if outwardly they are teaching the Dharma to others every day, or listening to the Dharma daily, but their hearts are filled with malice, competitiveness, and jealousy, then indeed the merit is not really very significant. So this issue is something we must be very clear about. If we are motivated by desire for status, fame, or worldly benefits, then no matter how much Dharma we listen to, it simply cannot become true Dharma for us in our life. If during the process of listening to teachings, we carry certain, if I listen to the class like this now, maybe I will get a certificate from the Dharma teacher, attain Dharma teacher status, or become a doctoral or master's student. Tibetan monastery, there are often academic titles like Khenpo and Geshe. So many Dharma listeners are prone to developing such thoughts. Is there something similar in Han Chinese regions, like Han Chinese monks, abbots? What is the highest Dharma transmitter called? Dharma teacher. Is there anything beyond that? Grand Dharma teacher, right? Grand Dharma teacher, middle Dharma teacher, junior Dharma teacher. There are several levels of Geshe. For lay people, it's called lay Dharma teacher. The other day, someone said, I really want to become a lay Dharma teacher. Excuse me, could you please provide me with a certificate first? I need to have it before we continue, and I would really appreciate your help with this. Requesting a certificate before even becoming a Dharma teacher, this is a bit seeking fame and so on, some worldly things. For example, listening to the Dharma for family harmony and well-being, prosperous business, eloquence without obstacles, and abundant wealth. There are many, many worldly goals like these. With such goals or motivations in mind, however much Dharma you listen to, it may not become true Dharma. Why call Dharma? It can still become a kind of virtuous route, but it will not be true Dharma. The true Dharma of Mahayana aims to benefit all sentient beings and help them attain Buddhahood with such a purpose. So if your motivation is not correct, On one particular day, Venerable Atisha, who was generally known for his calm and gentle presence, seemed to be especially saddened. His expression was noticeably more somber than usual. His disciple Dromtönpa asked him why, and he said, there was a devoted disciple who earnestly practiced the profound Black Manjushri method with unwavering dedication. Yet, ultimately, despite all his efforts, he sadly fell into a lower realm. Tantric and Yidam practice prevent lower realm fall. But because he harbored malicious intent to subdue others, constantly reciting the Buddha's name with a negative mind. In the end, he himself fell into a lower realm. So having the right motivation is indeed very important. If your motivation is truly pure, then everything will also be pure. For example, if a tree's roots are actually poisonous, then all its branches, leaves, fruits will be poisonous too. But if its roots are considered to be medicinal, as some people believe, then all of its many branches, leaves, and fruits will be wonderful medicine. Therefore, right at the very beginning of the process, looking inward and carefully adjusting your motivation is absolutely crucial. At the start, first and foremost, we must definitely look within. Adjusting your own mind is extremely, extremely important. No matter what you want to say or what you want to do, you must first observe your mind. If you notice that your body wants to move, or you feel the urge for your mouth to speak, even when you should examine your mind and act calmly. As mentioned before, as we have already discussed, no matter what you want to say or do, whether it's a good deed or something else, you should observe beforehand. If in the end you find that you are truly doing this for the benefit of all beings, then you can simply continue to do it just as before. If you truly know how to carefully adjust your motivation in this particular way, it means that your virtuous actions are already being thoughtfully guided by skillful means with awareness and intention. In this way, it becomes a bridge to the boundless merit of the Bodhisattva's true path. If you already know how to adjust your motivation, right at this point, your mind is already set on benefiting all sentient beings with a heart full of great compassion. This means your virtuous actions are already embraced by compassion and bodhicitta, or have already been guided by the skillful means of bodhicitta. In this way, even if you do just a small good deed, it actually becomes the boundless merit of the bodhisattva path. Because even just a little bit of thought for the benefit of sentient beings actually brings truly incredibly great merit. Simply thinking of benefiting sentient beings brings greater merit than making offerings to all the Buddhas. Master Shantideva taught this. Just the mere thought of truly benefiting others, no matter how small the act may be, even for just a moment, its merit exceeds making offerings to all Buddhas. If we do not give rise to such an aspiration, then none of our actions, whether they are actions of the body, words we speak, or thoughts and intentions in our mind, can truly become the cause that allows us to attain Buddhahood, meaning without sincerely generating genuine bodhicitta in one's own heart, one will never truly attain perfect Buddhahood. This is also stated in the explanation of bodhicitta. In summary, simply, in itself, giving rise to an altruistic mind, the merit of this is indeed great. There is a sutra called the Sutra of the Noble Moon Goddess, as it seems, quoted in the Great Chariot Commentary on Resting in the Nature of Mind, the Great Perfection, which says, just the thought of benefiting others brings immeasurable benefit. Having an altruistic mind, its benefit and merit are boundless and limitless. How much more if one actually acts to benefit others? Therefore, in our daily lives, we must, as individuals, definitely make adjustments to our own behavior. Adjusting our inner mind is very important. If we do not know to adjust our motivation, then even if we pretend to listen to the Dharma or go through the motions of practicing, it can only become a superficial form of practice. If you don't really adjust your mind, you wear tattered clothes and attend classes every day. On the surface, it may look like you are focused, and others might say, this person is ascetic, remarkable, but it is only a superficial act of listening to the teachings. It does not actually, in reality, become a true cause for liberation. All day long, you just put on an act, practicing, performing rituals over and over again, and meditating each and every single day. And some people really do appear to be especially diligent. But the adjustment of the mind has not been done well. Inwardly, it is always for oneself. If I do this, will many people make offerings to me? If I do this, will many people praise me? Some people might just be like this, For example, when we went to Mount Wutai, sometimes we saw people quietly meditating, often sitting in silence. And when we approached, they would gently close their eyes. But when we were not close, they would open their eyes and look around everywhere. There are similar ones in Han regions. When we went to Lhasa, some monastics were there begging for alms and money. They would hold a bell and Vajra, chanting praises to the 21 Taras. When folks came by, they would start chanting Om Jetsuma Pema Droma. But when no one was around, they would stop chanting, always like this. They seem diligent, but in reality, it is for money or other purposes. Some virtuous actions just for appearances actually not only lack merit, but even bring faults. If one truly acts to benefit others, even if what you do seems small or lasts only a short time, the merit from that will never be exhausted, even up to the attainment of Buddhahood. Now that we understand this principle in our daily lives, we do not, in fact, give praise to many actions that are merely for the sake of appearance, as we all know. If someone spreads the Dharma and benefits beings greatly, they have no choice to act a certain way. Nothing can change that. But aside from that, deliberately showing off or boasting in front of others has no real meaning or significance, at least not in reality. Therefore, whether it's listening to the Dharma and practicing deity yoga, reciting mantras, making prostrations, or performing circumambulations, even reciting the Avalokiteshvara mantra once, all should be done with a mind of bodhicitta. This is really important. Therefore, through the above analysis, everyone should understand that when practicing and following the teachings of Buddhism in the world, sometimes we listen to Mahayana or Hinayana teachings, or visualize Manjushri Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, and so on. Visualize the yidam, practice deity yoga, or even recite certain mantras, such as the Amitabha mantra, the 100-syllable mantra, and so forth. Or practice the preliminaries or make prostrations if you wish to do so, as well as circumambulate mandalas, stupas, scriptures, or monasteries. Even when simply reciting Om Mani Padme Hum aloud and clearly, such a simple and straightforward recitation, it is generally best to hold it as much as possible with bodhicitta in your heart, keeping this intention present within you. This is very important. So when you are simply holding a prayer wheel and spinning it for a few minutes, it is best to have bodhicitta at the forefront as well. When doing things for others, as many are motivated to spread Dharma and benefit beings, in the process of generating this motivation, for example, today, why am I engaging in some charitable activity? When calling others with right view and mindfulness, at the very beginning, if you think, today I am doing this, and generate such an intention, then the merit is truly immense. In the past, the Mahasanipata Sutra said, Bodhisattva Ratnapani respectfully inquired of Bodhisattva Akashagarbha, if I may ask, what truly is the root of all Buddha Dharma? With a gentle and thoughtful demeanor, Bodhisattva Akashagarbha responded, Bodhicitta is the foundation of all Buddha Dharma. Indeed, in other words, all Buddha Dharma abides in bodhicitta and can thereby flourish. If we uphold everything with bodhicitta, then all virtuous actions can grow. If we lack bodhicitta, then on the surface, it may look like we are accumulating great merit, but in reality, the power of that merit is really not that great. This is something we need to note. The above discussed generating bodhicitta, but here it is explained as essential instructions. I sincerely hope everyone will truly put this into practice because, as we all know, anyone can simply talk about it. But when it comes to actual action, can you really give rise to this mind? The key lies in your own realization and practice. We are not praising you for attaining the 5 clairvoyances or 6 supernatural powers, or for seeing the bindu, or for realizing luminosity. We're not covering these. They're advanced. This is fundamental in the preliminary practices. This is bodhicitta. Are our actions actually virtuous roots of Mahayana? If they are becoming Mahayana, virtuous roots from the very beginning, this person is definitely doing things for the sake of all sentient beings. With this, the first saving, the superior motivation of intention, should now indeed be considered complete. If this is not present, then in fact many of our practices are indeed genuinely and truly still, as it stands, in a poor state, even now. You could say that we still need to make a real effort now. The first step is to be guided by bodhicitta. This point is extremely important. Stop here.
Om